This video is nearly 3 weeks in the making. Let me explain. I made a few crucial mistakes when trying to film this video. First was trying to use the stock motor and motor mount. So the first thing I realized was that I needed to ditch the stock motor mount. So I bought an aftermarket motor mount, but I still tried to retain using the stock TRAXXAS XMAXX motor. That turned out to be a fail once again. It turns out there are no screw holes on the front of the TRAXXAS X-Maxx motor to screw it onto a traditional sliding mount. So I had to ditch that idea. So this is where we are at now. Go ahead, fast forward another week and a half or so, and I think I finally have everything I need to actually put this belt drive system together. So in the end, we determined that this motor and this motor mount will not work. First, I thought it was just a motor mount that wouldn't work, but then I did not take into consideration that there's only one screw hole on this motor for this particular motor mount, the stock motor mount to fit on. So this motor right here will not attach to our aftermarket mount. On top of that, I was trying to use an adapter because this is a 5mm shaft. You need an 8mm shaft to actually fit the pulley system. This is an adapter I got from Hot Racing that'll adapt a 5mm shaft to an 8mm, which then we are able to use this pulley. But I didn't take into consideration you can't use this motor. So in the end, I went out, spent quite a bit of money, and bought a new motor. Let me show you what I got. So this right here is the Easy Run 5687 1100 kV 1/5 scale brushless motor. So this is what we're hooking up. This should hook directly up to this mount that we have, and then we should be able to pop this in. This does have an 8mm shaft, so this pulley should go directly on the motor shaft, and then hopefully we can get this in and try it out, because this has been like literally 3 weeks to a month in the making. So let me cut this out, and I'll show you what we're working with. This motor cost about $170, $175, so it wasn't not cheap, but just check out the size. This is a massive motor. Wow. Check that out, guys. That is huge. That's about the same diameter as the 800 kV I have in my brushless Losi 5T. And comparing it to the stock motor, oh my gosh, it's like way bigger. You can't even tell because this still has a heatsink on it. So let's take the heatsink off. There we go. Got it off. This motor is quite a bit larger in diameter to the stock motor. Quite a bit larger indeed. They're about the same length though, the can of the motor. So this, like I said, has an 8mm shaft compared to a 5mm, quite a bit bigger, so this pulley will fit perfectly over it. I'm still skeptical about this 2 grub screw system though, holding this pulley in place. If this belt system does not work, the next upgrade I'm doing with this X-Maxx is we're going 1.5 mod gears. But I decided to try this first with the belt drive system, just give it a chance. Let me go ahead and get this motor mounted up on this mount, then we'll try to drop it in and see if everything fits. All right, and I have got the motor mounted up. All the holes lined up. I like the way this motor mount works. This is actually the exact same motor mount I already run on my other TRAXXAS X-Maxx, but that one's running a 4985 1650 kV motor, and I did have to drill another set of holes because that didn't line up with either of these two. Now this motor mount's all the way up, so I'm hoping that with this motor mount all the way up to stretch this belt out and put the proper amount of tension on the belt, because that's what I'm really hoping on right now. So the other thing I have to do is I have to go ahead and get these screws undone so we can actually drape the belt onto this pulley down here. Got the belt draped around the pulley, and just eyeing it up, it looks like we will have enough distance to actually put this pulley on and get it stretched out to the proper tension. But now the tricky part is getting it on there and getting the tension set. So I might have to work on that off camera, but I'll be right back with you guys. This is where we are currently at. I got the pulley on. I am still super skeptical about this working. So one of these grub screws is pushed right up against the flat part of the motor. The other one's kind of just pushed up against the round spot because they kind of have it awkwardly. They don't have one on each side. They have one kind of at a different, just a slightly different sliver of an angle to the other. So I don't quite understand that. But now the issue is going to be trying to slide the motor in, because I can't adjust the motor once this pulley's on. And you have to get the pulley on before the belt, because the belt goes over the grub screws. So it's kind of tricky. So everything has to be the way that it is. And then I still have to somehow get this worked in there and get the pulley, the belt draped over the pulley. And then I have to screw it in from underneath. So cross my fingers I can do that. All right, I had to have a couple different goes at that because the first time the motor, there was too much slack on this belt. This time, I think the belt might be tight enough. I think it's tight enough, especially since there's a lip on this pulley. I think it's tight enough where it's not going to come off at least. And I think I have it pretty well set up where it's pretty well in line with the bottom pulley. Just need to zip tie the motor fan onto this motor, get the plugs plugged into the ESC, and then tighten the screws from underneath. So definitely learn from my mistakes, guys. You're going to need a bigger motor. You're going to need an aftermarket motor mount. You may as well buy a motor with an 8mm shaft. So stock motor is going to be a no-go. So you're going to have to invest some money if you're actually going to switch this over to the belt drive system. In hindsight, the 1.5 mod gears would probably have been an easier swap. Hopefully I have enough attention on that belt. I don't think it's going to come off, but my fear is that it'll get loose enough where it won't come in contact with like the teeth of the pulley. You have to tighten the pulley on before you can actually put the belt on. And you have to have the motor set at the proper distance to put tension on the belt before you put the pulley on. So it's super complicated. So by the time I got it screwed down in, there's a little bit more slack than what I wanted. I don't know if you can see in there. A little bit more slack than what I would like. Alrighty guys, maiden voyage for the belt drive system. Let's see if this actually works. My biggest concern is that there might not be enough tension on this belt, but we're gonna have to see. Also, first test of this motor. We'll start off easy. I do have it running 2 4S packs, so 8S total. Let's see how she does. Definitely gonna be a different noise since there's no pinion and spur. Yeah, definitely a different noise. Apologize about the wind. I actually don't have my wind catch on my phone. Just came out real quick to film a real fast video outside. Nope. It's spinning already, guys. You know what? This is what I was skeptical about. That pulley already gave down there. So there's 2 set screws on these pulleys, and since the motor's one spinning, it's that bottom one already. And I used blue thread lock on that. That was something I was super skeptical about. On top of that, that bottom shaft does not have a flat part. That's an absolute fail. Gosh. And now the worst part is, to actually access that, I have to take the motor out, probably undo this top pulley, slide the belt off, because I don't think I can access. Yeah, you can see how much that bottom pulley's moving. Bottom pulley already came undone. I might have to use red thread lock on that. That's risky, but that one doesn't have a flat spot because it's not like the motor shaft. The motor shaft I was less concerned about. That bottom shaft, that came loose after 5 seconds of running, not even a quarter throttle. So that's not gonna work. I might actually have to go like grind a flat spot down on that spur gear shaft so I can actually tighten that grub screw onto it, because that's not gonna hold under any amount of power, unfortunately. So back to the drawing board, I guess. I am back. Now, there is actually an easier way to get that out. It's easier just to take off the 4 screws holding this piece right here, this cover on, and then take the belt off of the top, unscrew these 2 grub screws, pull the pulley off, and then actually pull that out. But the biggest issue is there's no flat spot on this shaft. So there needs to be a flat spot. Otherwise, these grub screws have absolutely nothing to screw onto. It's rounded all the way around. So I'm going to have to try to grind this down and flatten it. You can see what I tried to do here. I tried to grind this down and make a flat spot on this spur gear shaft. It's not perfect, but it definitely is flattened some. So my hope is that if I can get one of the grub screws lined up with this, it'll stay on a lot better. I might actually even use a dab of red thread lock as well, which is kind of risky, but I want this to stay in place. So I'll be right back with you guys once I get this all put back together. Also, this motor right here is lifted as high as it can. This insert right here can't go any higher. That one can, but it won't shift any higher. So without drilling a new hole higher up, I can't lift this motor any further away. So this is going to be the maximum tension that we can possibly have on this belt, unfortunately. So hopefully that'll work. But first, let's see if this actually works. I don't know if there's an emergency going on. They have some type of triathlon going on today, so maybe that's all it is. But I'm back out to try this out again. This time, tried to put a flat part on that spur gear shaft so that grub screw actually has something to push up against. Because otherwise, there's no chance this is going to hold. And the belt is as tight as it's going to be able to get because I can't shift this motor up any higher. So let's cross our fingers it works this time. I didn't use red thread lock yet. I just used a dab of blue. So we're just gonna see if it initially holds. Right? Wanna go easy to begin with. So far, it doesn't sound like it's slipping, at least. That was my biggest fear, it would slip. I mean, at least initially, it seems like it's holding now that I put that flat part on the shaft, but that's a lot of work to get that on and off, guys. Every single time you have to get that on and off, that's very difficult, at least with this different pulley size, because there are 2 different pulley size options I saw on eBay. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this kit link down below. It comes in around 50, 60 bucks if I remember correct. And I do have a feeling this belt's gonna loosen a little bit. It's a little warm already, but at least we're not having it skip. But I haven't really done too many full throttle launches yet. That's really what's gonna tell. As long as it can hold in the long run, that's going to be the biggest question. So far, everything's feeling pretty good. Oh, it just turned off. All right, had to go down the street to retrieve it. It turned off for some reason. I thought maybe the belt had slipped, but that doesn't appear to be the case. I don't know. The ESC was blinking green, so it could be heat, because this is a 1/6 scale ESC trying to push around a 1/5 scale motor. But right now, everything seems to be holding good. We're not going to know until going forward whether or not this is actually going to hold up. I have a feeling with heat, though, these grub screws might have a way of coming loose. Keep on testing it, and next video you're going to see is we're going to bash this thing. So stay tuned for the next video. Hit that like button, subscribe. Check out the links down below, and stay tuned for the next video. All right, guys, I can already tell you it's starting to slip. That bottom one's slipping, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it back off. We're going to put some red thread lock on that. I might have to grind that down a little bit more again. Get some red thread lock on that one. I think I'm going to keep the blue on this one, and hopefully that won't come out in the future. But overall, so-so first run, but that could be a problem coming loose.